Don't lie to me. All right, so first one, again, we're graphing these parabolas from standard form. So first thing I always do is locate my A, H, and K values. So if you remember from our chart from before, okay, so this is the chart I gave you. Okay, we have our two different standard forms. Our A value is outside the parenthesis, and then depending upon which form, H is inside and K is outside, or K is inside and H is outside. So in the example we're given, it is a Y equals. Okay, so that looks like this one. So our H value will be inside those parentheses, and our K value will be on the outside. Okay, so our A value is next to the parentheses here. That is -2. Your H value is inside the parentheses, and H is always the opposite. Okay, so it's not -2, it's +2. Okay, and then our K value is on the outside, that is 3. So now that A value, since it is negative, it's going to reflect your graph in the x-axis. Okay, so since we have a negative there, we'll reflect in the x-axis. Okay, and you're also going to stretch vertically by 2. Okay, so you're also going to stretch vertically. So it's going to get longer than your parent graph. Okay, your parent graph is just x squared, and it's going to kind of thin out and stretch up more. This H value is going to move your graph 2 units to the right. Okay, so you'll move 2 units to the right. And your K value here is going to move your graph up. Okay, so this is how your graph moves from that parent function. So next what I want to do is write out each of my characteristics. So I want to find out what my vertex is. Okay, your vertex is at HK. Well, I already found what H is, and I found what K is. So our vertex is at 2, 3. Okay, your axis of symmetry for this standard form is at x equals h. Okay, so we'll have x is equal to 2, because our h value is 2. Your focus, now again, this comes from that chart that I gave you. Okay, right here. We're in this column because this is the form we were given. Our focus is here, so this is what I need to use to figure out my focus point. Okay, it's at h comma k plus 1 over 4a. Okay, so we are at h k plus 1 over 4a. And I just plug those values in. Okay, so our h value is 2, k is 3, add on, 1 over 4 times our a value. Now our a value is -2. Okay, so I just need to add 3 plus 1 over -8. So my focus point is at 2.875. Okay, and you can just enter that into your calculator. So 3 plus 1 over -8. Okay, same thing with your directrix. That comes from this chart again. So again, using this column here, directrix is right here. So we'll use this formula right there to find that directrix. So we are using y equals k minus 1 over 4a. Okay, then plug in your values. We have y equals, our k value is 3 minus 1 over 4 times negative 2, since that is our a value. And again, you can just plug it into your calculator, get a decimal. So we end up with y is equal to 3.125. Okay, so we do have each of our answers here. So we have our vertex, we have our axis of symmetry, this one is our focus, and this is your directrix. Okay, so those were the answers for each of those with their steps. So now I still have to graph this equation. Okay, so you can either use the parent function and move it according to what we laid out here, or we can make a table of values. Okay, so I can plug in values for x to get a y value. So since my vertex is at 2, 3, I want numbers surrounding that x value.
Do you have no cards?
No cards.
Can I borrow like 2 or 3?
Yeah, you can.
I had no cards.
Not.
I don't know where they went.
I don't know.
Oh, they're really big though.
Oh, dang. I'll just, can I have like 2 of them?
2 of them?
2 or 3, doesn't matter. Thank you.
All right, so since my vertex is at 2, 3, that's my middle value that I want to use. Okay, so this one is in the middle, so I want points surrounding that. Okay, so that one's in the middle, so I want points surrounding that. So I'm going to plug in 1 and 0, and then 3 and 4. Okay, so I just want points surrounding that vertex. So plugging in 0 to our equation up here,
Oh.
we have 0 minus 2, which is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2, negative 8, plus 3,
Oh.
it's negative 5. What? Okay, next I want to plug in 1. So I have 1 minus 2, negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Shh. Positive 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Plus 3 is 1. Plug in 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. Squared is 1. 1 times negative 2, negative 2. Plus 3 is 1. So since this is a parabola and this is your vertex point, these numbers here surrounding it should be the same. Okay, so that means when you plug in 4, you should get negative 5. So from here, you can just plot those points then. So we have 0, negative 5. We have 1, positive 1. 2, positive 3, 3, 1, and 4, negative 5. Okay, and then you can just connect those to make your parabola shape. Okay, now those points should reflect over that axis of symmetry, which we said was x is equal to 2. That's this dashed line right here. So that's why those points reflected over that. Okay? Those points reflect over that axis of symmetry. Okay, questions on this graph? Okay, we're going to do another one. Are you good now? Uh-huh. All right, so number 2, this one is in the form x equals. Okay, so if you have one of your note sheets with your chart on it handy, that means you're using this column now. Okay, because that is in the form x equals. Meaning k is inside the parentheses and h is on the outside. Okay, so here labeling a, h, and k, our a value is next to our parentheses, that is negative 1. Our h value is on the outside of the parentheses, that's going to be this 3. And the k value is inside the parentheses. Okay, and whatever's in the parentheses, you always take the opposite of what it is. So this is just going to be 2. Okay, now this negative 1 reflects. Okay, so if I have an x equals equation, and it's like x equals y squared, that's your parent function and it opens to the right. So if you have a negative 1, that's going to reflect it in the y-axis. Okay, so that'll reflect it in the y-axis. Okay, your h value is going to move your parabola right 3 units. And your k value is going to move up or down. This one is positive, so we will move up 2 units. Okay, just like with our other equation, your vertex is still at hk. And we did already figure out what values h and k are. So h is 3 and k is 2. Okay, next we need the axis of symmetry. Okay, axis of symmetry for this type of equation is at y equals k. So I have y is equal to our k value, which is 2. Okay, then we have our focus. Our equation for the focus here is h plus 1 over 4a, and then k. And we can just plug those values in. So we know what h is. H is 3 plus 1 over 4 times our a value is negative 1. And then our k value is 2. And again, we can just plug this part into a calculator and get a decimal. Okay, so 3 plus 1 over negative 4. Okay, so we end up with 2.75, 2 as our focus point. Okay, then with our directrix, again, that is in the chart. Okay, your directrix equation is x is equal to h minus 1 over 4 A. And again, we can just plug those in. So we have x is equal to 3 minus 1 over 4 times negative 1. So we end up with x is equal to 3.25. And again, we still have to graph, but we can use that table of values. And again, our vertex we want in the middle. Okay, so we have a vertex of 3, 2. Now the values I'm going to choose are not going to be x values. Okay, if I chose x values, I'd have to plug them in here. Okay, I want to choose y values so that I can plug them in over here. So I need y values that surround 2 instead. Okay, so we'll go less than 2 is 1 and 0. And then greater than 2 are 3 and 4. Okay, so I want to choose y values so I can plug that y value into the equation. Okay, so plugging 0 in for y, I get negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. Okay, times negative 1. So I have negative 4 plus 3. That is negative 1. Plug in 1 for y. We have 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Positive 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And then plus 3 is 2. Okay, now since this is your vertex, again, it should reflect. Okay, so if I plug in 3, I should get 2. So if I plug in 3 here, I have 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Times negative 1 is negative 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. Okay, so you see how it's going back the same way. Okay, meaning if I plug in 4, I should get negative 1. Okay, so then we can plot these points. So we have negative 1, 0. We have 2, positive 1. We have 3, positive 2. We have 2, positive 3. And negative 1, positive 4. Okay, so this is going to open to the left. It is opening to the side here, not up and down. To make that parabola. Okay, so when you have an x equals parabola, it opens left or right, not up or down. Okay, and that's when you want to plug in y values, not x values, into your equation. Okay, and I'll just highlight these again like I did above. So we had our vertex right here. Okay, that is at 3, 2. That is your vertex. We have our axis of symmetry is at y equals 2. That is this line right here. And you can see those points reflect over that dashed line. Okay, they reflect over that dashed line. Okay, our focus point is at 2.752. And our directrix is at x equals 3.25. Okay, questions on graphing from standard form?